You know, when I say looks dictate every aspect of your life, they say, oh, these black pillars are so unhinged. I want to draw your attention to an article in the New York Times all the way from 1981. This is interesting because it is an old article from 40 years ago that has insight into the problems a lot of men face today. This is coming from a university professor at the time, a female professor at that. When I say these, oh, you are just an incel dude. Is she an incel as well? Are you gonna call her an incel as well? She has some quite interesting lines that go beyond looks are important, water is wet stuff. The article reads, Minneapolis studies of physical attractiveness show that people do, in fact, judge a book by its cover, often with dramatic effects on those being judged. The findings suggest that expectations based on physical attractiveness can become self-fulfilling prophecies that may strongly influence the course of a person's life. Precisely. You might even say that you're concerned with how they are perceived by the opposite sex, but your looks dictate other aspects of your life as well. When you say this out loud, people don't like it because it goes against their core belief that people are in charge of their future. But looks indeed do strongly influence the course of a person's life. It often triggers a chain reaction in your life. One thing triggers the other. One move leads to the next. Looks are really such a major determining factor of pretty much every avenue of life. I am not saying you can't accomplish something great otherwise, but you would have to be exceptionally talented and hardworking. You have to be working twice as hard to get the same chances and opportunities. Dr. Berscheid said the importance of physical attractiveness is growing and will continue to grow as increases in geographic mobility, frequent job changes, and divorce subject more people to one-time or few-time interactions with others, in which they are judged on the basis of first impressions. What she said indeed came to pass, but I am sure even she was surprised at the magnitude of it. Even she underestimated it. The psychologist who has been studying the effects of physical attractiveness for the last 15 years said the findings give new dimensions to Freud's statement that anatomy is destiny. The last line really hits the point home. It really is destiny, and you can't really fight destiny. This was really insightful coming from her, considering it is an article from 1981. She talked about these issues in the 70s, about the importance of looks, how it shapes other aspects of your life, how it will be even more important in the future. And she was proven right. Genetic determinism is anathema to Americans who want to believe everyone is born equal, with an equal chance for a happy life. Dr. Berscheid remarked in an interview here. It is simply not so. The most important factors governing success in life are genetically determined: appearance, intelligence, sex, and height. Guys, she almost nailed it here. The idea of genetic determinism is indeed anathema to most people on Earth, not only Americans. It is an uncomfortable idea. It challenges the validity of a lot of the moral values and beliefs of our society that contemporary laws stand upon. Free will, justice, the belief that we are in charge of our lives and decisions. The idea that we are responsible, the objective morality, right and wrong. The idea of genetic determinism brings a lot of these into question. The most important factors are indeed looks, first and foremost, which is genetics. Then I would say opportunities and environment rather than intelligence. I have a slight disagreement with her here. Which country on earth you were born in, which race, the family you were born into, which is also luck. The second factor is environment, not intelligence. Then she says sex, which is true but the other way around. It is the females that have a head start. But then again, she was born in 1936. She grew up during 40s and 50s. She's a female herself, so I am gonna give her a pass here. The preferential treatment of physically attractive people starts right after birth and continues throughout childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood. These are among the more telling research findings, all of which involved normal-looking people of varying degrees of attractiveness. And guys, keep in mind that scientifically more airtight studies that came out in the last 40 years not only confirm the aforementioned evidence, but also show that looks are even more important than previously thought. The rabbit hole goes even deeper. This is beyond brutal, man. This is the most interesting part of the article. As women become more independent, socially and economically, Dr. Berscheid sees them placing a greater emphasis on the attractiveness of men, who are now in the meat market, just like women have always been. She cited the recent advent of male centerfolds and male nude dancers as examples of women's interest in how men look. Another factor has been the importance women today place on love as a criterion for choosing a mate. In 1967, only 24% of women questioned said they would marry only if they were in love. But a decade later, 80% said being in love was a necessary condition for marriage. She really saw it coming, guys, considering she was born in 36 and grew up in the 50s. But then again, even she underestimated it. The invention of dating apps and more. It is just a different world we are living in. When romantic love becomes an important factor in social choice, physical attractiveness becomes important also. Dr. Berscheid told the symposium on the psychological aspects of facial form last year. The symposium brought together plastic surgeons, dentists, and others who produce facial changes that often affect patients more powerfully than the functional defects they correct. Sometimes patients react badly, with pain and bewilderment, to significant improvements in their appearance, Dr. Berscheid told a meeting at the University of Michigan. This reaction could result from the realization that we are not just loved for ourselves, but for what we look like, she suggested. The realization that we are not just loved for ourselves, but for what we look like. This is a tough pill to swallow, man, for a lot of people. Dr. Berscheid believes there is a hazard inherent in denying the impact of physical attractiveness. Unattractive children who are unpopular may wrongly attribute their lack of popularity to some flaw in their character or personality, she says. Such an error, she believes, could result in lasting and painful scars. Again, guys, she nails it. It happens all the time. Which is also why a lot of naive men fall victim to PUAs and red pill scammers. Those guys blame themselves. Oh, I must be doing something wrong, when it's all about their looks. The main takeaway is this. Anatomy is destiny, and you can't really fight destiny.